It's probably started. It says, yeah, it's going right now, so we're good. Welcome, guys. It's Casey is wrong with beer stuff, Brad. And this is talking about video console history from his side. So, I'm going to take a guess. You probably started with the Atari 2600 like me, probably, right?
Well, sort of. When I was growing up, I had two brothers in my house, and one of them was about 10 years older than me. The other one was about another 6 years older than him. Now, he wasn't the oldest one. He didn't play any games. He didn't. He was doing other things. He was more of the guy that grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, but my older brother, he had an Atari, and I remember we had a storage closet in my old house in Broken Arrow, and I would go in there, and I remember seeing the Atari 2600 in there, in a box, and with controllers and with a bunch of games. And I remember seeing it, and I was like, "Wow, what is that?" And I didn't know what it was. At that time, I had no idea what a video game was. I had no idea what a console was or anything. I was like, "What is that?" And I asked my dad. He said, "It's your brother's computer." And I was like, "A computer? That's a weird looking computer." Because my dad was like a software engineer, and he had these other computers, which we played video games on. And that's the only electronic games I knew of existed at that point, other than going to like an arcade, like a roller skating rink,
Yeah.
or something like that, right? So, yeah, I mean, he had that in there, and I remember one time I tried to hook it up, and I couldn't figure it out, so I was like, "No, this is stupid," and he wouldn't help me because he didn't like me, so. So no, it really was, and we'll get back to our Atari, but for me, I think my first console experience was when Nintendo Mania kind of hit.
Yeah.
I one Christmas woke up in the morning and I got a Nintendo action set, and I remember thinking, "Oh, this is neat," and then I was like, "What is it?" Because I had no idea what it was. And I remember my brother being more excited than me. He's like, "Yes!" He's like freaking out about it. And I was like, "What is it?" And everybody else was like, "Oh, okay, that's nice." And my dad was like, "Oh no, it's the new thing. This is like the future." And I remember him saying that, and people were like, he had to explain it to people.
Mm.
And it came with the two controllers. It had the dual game Mario and Duck Hunt and the Zapper, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I remember early on playing Duck Hunt a lot with it, and it was cool because it was like, okay, this is like just like on an arcade machine. This is awesome. I mean, you're at home playing it. But I also remember my brother going on there and playing Mario a lot, and I would just sit there and watch. I mean, oh, this is awesome. How do you do this? So I remember learning to play Nintendo for my brother on my own damn Nintendo. But yeah, it's pretty rad, and it took a while for me to get into it. I remember that too. I mean, it was different. It was different, and I remember playing Mario a lot, and the games that really were in my memory is the ones I played a lot were Double Dragon.
Yes.
I also played a game called Ghouls and Goblins a lot. I don't know if you remember that one.
I got
it. Of course you do. Of course you do. He's got it up there in that wall behind him.
Actually, I got that one in its box.
There you go, in the box with the sleeve.
I'm sure if it doesn't have like a million sleeves hiding somewhere.
The sleeves, those things, and that's another thing is I was going to talk about that. Is like Nintendo Mania hit, right? And I remember once I learned how to play it and played Mario a lot, and played Ghouls and Goblin a lot. I played Legend of Zelda, and I played Ninja Turtles. I mean, there's a lot of different games, 1 and 2, and even a little bit of Zelda too. which was the one that no one liked, but I liked that one. In
It was
Metroid,
just hard.
it was just like one game after the other, and there were so many games that I became addicted. But what I remember about that period of time was the mania about it. Nintendo everything, and the accessories for the Nintendo, right? So I was telling you earlier before we started here. There was something I remember specifically about that period that's related to the NES. It's kind of a funny story. So when I was younger, I used to go to the grocery store with my mom when she'd go get the groceries, like weekly. And you'd go down the magazine aisle, Skaggs Alpha Beta, in Broken Arrow, and you go down the magazine aisle, and there would be Nintendo Power, the Holy Grail, which is awesome because it had all the layouts of the levels. It's amazing. And then you had like the rip-off Nintendo Power, which is like Game Pro or some crap, and then you'd have like some other electronics magazine talking about the Nintendo because it was like the rage. And then you go to the book aisle, which is across the way, and there'd be Nintendo sticker books and Mario sticker books, and I'd be like, oh, I had to have all those. I had them, and and I would occasionally, my mom would buy me the Nintendo Power, occasionally. And then I remember one time we went, and I went down the magazine, and I picked up the Nintendo Power, and she got it for me. But then we went down the cereal aisle, and was walking down the cereal aisle, and I looked over, and I saw that it says Nintendo, and it said Nintendo Cereal System. No kidding. It's called Nintendo Cereal System, and it had on one side of the box had Mario, and one side of the box it had Zelda.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then it said including the back, you'd like a sticker or some crap or something. But
And I think it actually also had two different types of bags of cereal in there at that time frame.
It did, and I remember going to my mom, oh, I want this, and I threw a fit in the middle of the aisle. I want this, and she's like, no, it's too expensive or something because it was premium, right? It was really priced up. And I was like, well, I'm not giving up. So what do you owe it facing to here? I gotta turn this down.
I just looked at, I went to eBay, and there's a buy it now with just the box. It's flat, and the box is in pretty good shape. They got 47 people watching this. And it's a buy it now. It's for $300 just for a box. And right now, the newer ones, the Super Mario cereal it's up and down. I mean, I got one of those boxes too, of the more recent one. But good God. It doesn't shock me it's expensive, but
that's nuts. That's absolutely batshit.
Yeah, that's just wild. I think I remember not only having it and eating it. I think like they're kind of like Cheerios with like it's with mushroom. No, not with marshmallows.
So here's what I did, because my mom went by it, and I asked her twice on 2 occasions. I remember this specifically because it was like traumatizing because I didn't get it. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm just going to go with my dad when he goes grocery shopping. And so he went to Sam's Club, which was around back then, and they had a big box of it. But we got it. And I was like, oh, yeah. I remember going home, opening up. Yeah, it was literally split. There was 2 separate bags of cereal with a divider down the middle, right? And then you'd have 2 stickers. You did like a sticker, whatever the character was. Like I got a Link and a Mario. And then the cereal, if I recall, the Zelda was like almost like a Lucky Charms, okay? And then the Mario was kind of like Cheerios, Rice Krispies. What I do remember, though, I absolutely remember, is both of them tasted like ass. They were really bad. They were really, really bad tasting, but they looked cool. They looked cool. Like in the Zelda, you had little
Yeah.
boomerangs and you had like little potions and things. It was cool. And then on the Mario, you had pipes and you had the Mario characters. You had the Goombas. But it was neat. But the thing I always remember is it was a black box, and it said "Serial System." I was
Yeah,
like,
that's what that's what it comes up as. If you go on eBay, that's what it comes as, Nintendo Serial System. And it's funny. There's one for $15, but it's not the cereal box. It's a poster promoting the cereal for $15.
a poster of the cereal box. Wow, there you go. See,
And
that was Nintendo back then. It was like everything was Nintendo, and it's like a cereal, a Nintendo cereal. That's when you know you've made it. When you have
oh yeah,
a Nintendo license, it was an officially licensed cereal.
oh dude, get
But
this shit. You know those little handheld little pinball things we had as children? Those little plastic toys, the ones you hold and you have a little spring and it shoots the ball around.
oh yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
Well, there was one, I guess, that was inside the cereal. It's a Zelda version, and right now on eBay, it's going for $2,500.
Oh my Oh my God! Now that you say that, maybe I had one of those. Oh, don't eat. No, 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 no. I don't want to think about that. No, no, no. Oh my God, no.
You gotta remember, these are buy it now, so you can put I can put a copy of Super Mario Brothers for $1,000,000. That doesn't mean this is a million worth $1
True.
million dollars.
It's true. It's whoever's gonna pay that much. If there's somebody out there that'll do it.
Yeah.
But no, those games. It's funny you mentioned those. Those are like the original handhelds, right? You actually remember those. There's people out there that don't
Oh, yeah.
ever remember those. But there was like that, and there was like I remember little games like that, and also like the ones that had water in it, and then it would shoot things
Oh,
around.
yeah.
Or there
Dude,
was the game with the magnetic dust. You make the guy that had bald, and you make him have hair again, or have a beard. Or there was the Etch a Sketch, which is like iconic as in itself. Uh, but no, man, I'm pretty sure I've seen one of those, or I remember seeing one of those.
dude,
I hope I didn't have.
on eBay, it only has one of that box,
Uh,
and it's the
Nintendo cereal
$300
system.
one.
That cereal is bad, and I remember it sat in our damn cereal on our cabinet, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna eat it. I ate it once, and that was it. One of each version, and I never ate it again. And I just went back to my normal cereal. And I don't eat cereal now. I haven't eaten cereal in 25 years, but back then I
Wow.
used to eat it all the time. And so it just sat there, and I went on to my normal cereals, and I think I remember my brother ended up eating it because he would eat anything, and it was probably stale by then. I remember him, he ate it, but I wish I would have kept that stuff because it was like
Well,
I was
yeah.
like, I'm gonna throw this one at Casey. I bet he doesn't remember. I just remember that one so well because it was just. I remember throwing a fit to get that damn cereal, and my dad was like, same stuff. He's like, okay.
I
But,
I believe I had it too, but who figured, even 20 years later, not mention 30 years later, but even 20 years later, maybe even 15 years later, that that cereal will be worth money. But anything that's Nintendo related, especially old school Nintendo stuff, is worth money.
oh yeah,
I mean, like my little crate right here has Zelda on a couple sides and Mario and Brothers on the other sides, and the top of the lid's Mario Brothers. I mean, that crate is worth money too. But
anything
any
that has that license that was
Yeah,
issued back then in the early going, especially in the early going, is
mm,
worth money. It's a huge collector's item. Those things.
oh yeah. I mean,
Um,
I wouldn't sneeze on the stuff nowadays. Like Target was selling these uh, artwork that like the ones I posted a bunch of them. You see the ones up there?
oh yeah, I had that poster, that Super Nintendo one right there. I remember that one.
Up there with the like the Mario Odyssey, Mario Brothers 3, and Zelda. Those are from Target.
Really?
Yeah, and these smaller
Wow.
ones to the side of the door, I also got Target too, but those are like $5, and I believe those bigger ones were 10.
Jesus. Wow, that's crazy. Target's getting in on the nostalgia now. That's a lot of those stores are doing that because they know that
Mm,
people like you and me are older now, and we're starting to have
mm.
kids, and so
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, let's market this stuff toward them." So you're seeing a lot of that. I've seen even hear a lot of it, and you don't think so, but you got to realize is that Nintendo mania that happened in the 1980s, that was not
Mm.
just in the United States; it was all over the planet. I mean,
Actually,
everybody was going through that.
actually, in Europe, it was more of Sega.
It was Sega. Sega, and it's funny because I have some friends over there, and they're. If you talk to people our age, you
Mm.
would always assume that they're Nintendo people at that time. But you talk
Yeah.
to them, it's not the case. They're Sega people. It's because they really invested in the marketing over there. Uh, but Nintendo, they're like, we're going out to the U.S. market, which was kind of smart. But
Yeah,
uh,
especially right after they dominated the Japan market, and then like we get the Americans, and then they'll try to get Europe and
yep,
the other countries.
right,
But
exactly.
when they went to Europe, they were a little too late because Sega Master System was way more popular there. It's like the exact opposite over
Yeah,
there because it's real hard to find NES games in Europe, apparently, while
right.
Sega Master System games are like pretty easy to find.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same. It's true. It's 100% true. I mean, uh, but that Sega, they still. I think there's a lot of people that have a lot of nostalgia towards Sega, whereas they would normally have toward Nintendo, and
Yeah.
still to this day, and that's why you see Nintendo coming out with like Sega games on the Switch on this damn pack they just announced. So it's like that was like what Sega games, and it's like, that's
Well,
why they got a lot of people loyal to them. So
you
they
know,
want that.
the thing
It,
is, the thing
it's kind of
is,
like
sorry.
no, I was gonna say it's like when I think about Nintendo and the Sega rivalry, I think about WWF versus WCW,
Oh, fuck yeah.
right? And eventually WWF ended up winning pretty much, and they took over. Now there is still nostalgia towards WCW,
Oh,
and they want
yeah.
to make sure that those people are taken care of, and they do, right? And they always make sure they put out all these videos, they put all these specials, and they do all this stuff, and they put out the merchandise, and they
Oh,
did
yeah.
everything they could. And that's what Nintendo is realizing. They're like, well, Sega's still around. We're going to help them out. We understand and what they went through, but they just want to make a buck. But
Yeah. I'm I was shocked during that Nintendo Direct where I wasn't shocked about this N64 coming to the library, but I was like, people were talking about the Game Boy collection coming over. But then when I saw Sega Genesis, like, wow, this is a different turn.
it's like, wait a
But
second.
well, the thing is that, but it's not the biggest thing because Sega Genesis been they have so many uh like game disc that has a bunch of their Sega games anyways. Well, right now, actually, you can buy the Sega Genesis collection on the little card or digitally, and have way more of the games than what they're gonna push
What they're
out.
gonna do on there.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I got that on my Retro Pi. I mean, I got a crap ton of Sega games on there, and then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna release 26 games or whatever it is," and I was like, come on, man! You can get all that stuff like instantaneously on your phone if you wanted to.
Yeah.
It's some of the most easiest to get a hold of too, and not to mention, I mean, it's not bragging, but it's like you can get a hold of a lot of those Sega games versus Nintendo games way easier.
Oh yeah.
I think those were some of the first ones to be copied over to that. So anyway, so my game history. I'm gonna get back to it. So the serial system. I got that. That was my second Nintendo system was the serial system. But after that, I remember, Nintendo NES. The accessories came in like Power Pad was like a big one. I remember nights going over to my neighbors. They had a kid that was my age, and we would play Power Pad all damn night and piss off the people downstairs because it was like, and you'd get down on the pad and do this. So if you're like too lazy to run,
cheat. You cheat.
But no, it was fun. It was great, and then. I remember then it was like it was kind of phasing out. It's like there's so many games and so many different things, only so many accessories you could buy, and then they got into movies. There was like this movie called The Wizard, and then they showcased Mario 3, and then the Power Glove. And I remember coming out, oh, I want that. And I remember going and finding out that you couldn't get it anywhere in Oklahoma right after the damn theater. And I was like, oh man, I want it. And it was in the back of my head, and like 2 years later, then I got it. So, yeah, and then I was like disappointed with it. Of course, it was just disappointing.
Well, the thing, it was just so horrible. I mean, you figure it'd be easily to play it and whatever, and you figure out the buttons with your fingers, but no, it's like you had to put in instructions. And
horrible. It was like, oh, you had to like hit these damn codes and then do finger signs and like sign language and shit, and then you had to like use the direction. There's a directional pad on this damn thing. So why is there a directional pad? But sometimes you'd have to use it for like these menus. Oh my god, it was a pain in the ass.
Or you give up, you start playing it as a normal controller.
It's pretty much what you do. You take the damn glove off, and you're like, okay, screw this. And then, not to mention, you had to put these damn things over the TV that never fit correctly. They never stood up correctly, and yeah, it was a pain in the ass. But I was like, oh, I think it had promise. And of course, later on, we found out that there was promise in that type of thing through the Wii. But I was like disappointed. I was like, this is the most disappointing shit ever. And so I was like, Nintendo better be coming out with this new thing soon, because I had read about it in Nintendo Power, and I was ready for it. And, I mean, because Mario 3, honestly, to me, Mario 3 was like the last big hurrah for NES. It was like it was the greatest game, one of the greatest games ever made, and I'm grateful for that because I played it a long time. If it was an easy to beat or a little crappy game, then I would have been really disappointed and probably ended up with the Sega. That's just the way it would have been. But
back in the day, we just called the NES the Nintendo forever.
Oh, right, because that was Nintendo. It was Nintendo. There was only one Nintendo. We only started calling it the NES after there were multiple NESs.
Yeah, like then it was like the Super Nintendo, then the N64, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But
I got it. It's interesting because I don't know about you. When did you get a Nintendo?
Oh shoot! I wouldn't say early, like as I'd say maybe 86, because give or take. We got it early because my mom loved the Atari, she would play the Atari all the fucking time. And then I would play that. And then I always make this comparison that when you went from Atari to NES, it was like mind blowing. It's like going from VHS tape to like 4K Ultra Blu-ray. That's what I'm just making that one up because a lot of times I would say like going from NES to PS5 because it blew your mind, but I was shocked about the graphics for the NES.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like crazy that you could get like the same type of gameplay that you would see in an arcade and a quarter machine in your living room at home and be able to do multiplayer. And it was at home, and it was just mesmerizing. It's like, oh my God, this is at home. I'm playing this at home. This is crazy. And you can play as long as you want. You don't have to put damn quarters in every 5 minutes. So yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I got that NES a little bit late. I want to say it had started. I remember getting it for Christmas, and I got the Super NES for the Christmas as well. When I got that, and I was expecting that, right? I was like, the first one I had no idea what the hell it was. The second one, I was like, I'm ready for this. And so yeah, Super Nintendo was my second official TV home console. Yeah, I got a couple of games with it. I got Super Mario World, of course.
Yeah.
And I had I believe, I want to say it was Pilot Wings. I think it was Pilot Wings. I don't remember.
Yeah, Pilot Wings, yeah.
And I played Pilot Wings a couple of times. I was like, oh, this is stupid. My brother loved it, though. He freaking loved it. Super Mario World was like almost like a continuation of Mario 3 for me. And it was like so expansive, and there's so many different ways you could win, and all these secrets, and like, it's nuts. And I played that a lot. But with Super Nintendo, I mean, for me, honestly, where that really changed versus NES, and I mean, I like this. I wanted some sports games because all you heard about on the TV was Sega sports games were amazing.
Yeah.
And NES, you think about NES sports games, they're like Tecmo Bowl and like the Power Pad games. There's very little, but SNES really did it for me as far as the Super games because you had Madden, like all the Maddens. You had there was a game called Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball. I remember.
Yeah, people loved that game.
And it was a great game. It was different. It was like, it wasn't like the typical thing. It was like there was this funky music playing, and if you don't swing at a pitch, the guy would turn around at the camera and go, "Come on!" And it's hilarious. But there was a lot of different sports games I loved on that one, and then also there was the Zelda game, I should say, on SNES that was like mind blowing. So I don't know. I liked SNES. There was also crazy, stupid accessories like the Super Scope 6, which I had. That thing was cool, interesting. It worked. It wasn't like the Power. It worked, but the problem was the battery life was garbage. It
doesn't shock me.
Garbage. It's like, oh, you played one game, new batteries.
And it was wireless, right? It was wireless.
Yeah, it was wireless. It's completely wireless. It took like, I want to say, I don't know what kind of batteries it was.
I think it was C batteries.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was C batteries. And they drained like after one game. And I remember my parents were like, "You're going to stop playing that crap because we're not buying no more damn batteries." And I didn't. I stopped playing Super. I put it on the shelf, and that was that. It was like a prop at that point. But I love the Super Nintendo. It was awesome. NBA Jam, that's another good sport.
Oh, I love NBA Jam. I played that on the Sega Genesis. That was me and my brother's game. We would play all the time.
Fantastic game. And there's also, that game was cool because it was amazing. It was like the turbo and the different dunks you can do. You can go on fire. And then there was also the other things that came after that was like all the different like the big heads and the cheats. There's crap ton of codes that you could put in there. and that was without any type of game genie. You didn't need a game genie. You could just do it right in the game. It was awesome.
I love how you can play as Bill Clinton.
You could play as Bill Clinton, exactly. It was like, that's amazing. So, I mean, how many other games could you do that, right?
And like, you know, have a giant Bill Clinton's head. That's hard to say right there. Bill Clinton's head.
Bill Clinton's head. That's right.
But yeah, that was cool. I mean, I love NBA Jam. I mean, I've been playing it.
Do you remember, Casey, in our hometown, there was because when you used to rent games, right? Hold on a second. Let me finish this. My dog is trying to get into the conversation. Quiet. Perfect. There you go. Sorry. You wanted to say something, I guess. You remember renting videos? I remember when NBA Jam came out, it was so popular on not just Sega, but also on Nintendo. You could not even like rent it. You had to get on a waiting list to rent it.
Oh, really?
And what I remember is Blockbuster was kind of like a new thing still. It wasn't like really popular. But there was a video store in our hometown called Super Video. And it was a part of a grocery store called Warehouse Market. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but it's actually, I'm not going to try to give away things, but it's not in existence anymore. So no one's going to find it, but it was close to where you are now. And and it was on wait list there even. And
oh, really?
I was on a 12-week waiting list for that game. They had 3 people cancel, and I ended up getting it at like 9 weeks after 9 weeks of waiting. And I got NBA Jam. And what happened with it is I ended up keeping that game overdue, and we lost our Super Video membership because I didn't return the game.
Well, there's before we went to Blockbuster, there was a chain called Aardvark Video. That's where we went to.
Yeah. Well, that's right. You probably weren't over in that area at that time. You were over on the other side of town.
Yeah, I was far.
I remember Aardvark. I remember Aardvark though. I remember that.
Anytime we want to hang out, it's like good 15, 20 minutes before I get over to your house. Have to travel across town. But
NBA Jam, one of the greatest games of all time. It's just that one that was like the height of Super Nintendo. It was like everybody wanted that game, and it was amazing to play in multiplayer. It was a great multiplayer game. But I remember the sports games on on the Super that were like really just like I loved it because I just come from the Nintendo, which was like, hey, the sports games were like, hey. And then you had all your friends playing Sega, and they're like, look at it, I'm playing, NFL and licensed games from MLB and hockey and everything. And I'm like, well, I got Tecmo Bowl, and I got golf, and it's like, and they're like, yeah.
yeah.
So,
I mean, I love playing. During that time, I wasn't really playing sports games minus NBA Jam. The only other sports games before that was RBI Baseball on the NES.
RBI Baseball, that was a good one. Yeah. Right? And I remember that one too, but it was just like, because then you go and you play some of these other games, people are like, I want this, and hopefully, and I remember thinking, it's like, hopefully Nintendo is gonna do something like this, and of course they did. But I went from Nintendo to Super Nintendo, and around when I was about 13 years old, I'd never had a handheld. But I remember Game Boys, everybody having Game Boys in their packs of games, and their and their screen magnifiers and their all this crap that they had for their Game Boys. And I would play it, and I was like, this is cool, but it's like, no, my parents would never go for this. There's no way in hell. And eventually I was like, well, I was like maybe 13. I think it was my 13th birthday. I was like, they're like, well, you can get, what do you want? Do you want a Game Boy? And I was like, no, I played, because I had played a Sega Game Gear. And somebody's like, oh, it's amazing. It's color, man, it's color. And you know, it's easier to play. It's like wide, it looks badass. And so I asked for a Sega Game Gear instead of a Game Boy. Never owned a Game Boy. I got a Sega Game Gear. And I was satisfied with it. I mean, I had the Sonic games, I had all it. Then I had all the sports games that were like mobile, all the famous Sega EA sports games, mobile, which was awesome. And I played the hell out of it, but I remember kind of regretting it in my back of my hand because Game Boy ended up lasting for another 10 years after the Game Gear was gone.
Oh, yeah. It lasted forever. Oh, even with, the variant to go to the color. But, yeah, Game Boy lasted forever. And then you had the Advance, but even when, just before the Game Boy Color came out, I was pretty much done with Game Boy. I moved on to more console games and actual computer games at that time frame.
Yeah. I think the Game Boy, I wish I would have owned one. It's one of those things. I remember buying one once, like years later, after it was like no longer available, and I bought like one at a garage sale or something. And I was like, man, yeah, I wish I would have bought this back then. Because the Game Gear, yeah, it was great, but by the time I got that Game Gear, it was on its way out already. I mean, and I didn't know it. It was on its way out, and they weren't putting any more games. And I was like, I would always go to the store and be like, why aren't they putting any more Game Gears out? They're still putting out these damn Game Boy games, though. And I was like frustrated with that. And I was like, okay. And that burnt me. That experience burnt me on Sega so much that I was like, screw Sega. I'm done. And so, of course, I was reading. By that time, I was subscribed to Nintendo Power, and I started reading about the future of Nintendo, right? And they had started having these segments. And the first segment I remember, it was like, it's a new experience portable video game system that's going to be revolutionized portable video game system. It's going to be 3D graphics. And then they also had talked about this project for their new console. And I was like, oh my God, Nintendo's got their shit. Because at that time, PlayStation had started to come on the scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people are like, they're going to release a disc system. Watch. They're going to do what everybody else is doing. And of course, they weren't, right? They're doing something completely different and like off in left field. And those two things were the Virtual Boy and the N64.
And that's pretty much where I came around.
I got the Virtual Boy. I bought into the marketing from the Nintendo Power. Is what really got it for me is the Nintendo Power. And I remember at that time logging into the internet on America Online, and they even had like a little homepage section about the Virtual Boy and a video, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And so I mowed lawns for my dogs are mad at me for saying Virtual Boy. One second here.
Okay.
My wife has gone missing, I guess. Anyway, I bought into it, and I got it. I mowed lawns for an entire summer to raise up and save money to buy this thing myself. Okay. Now, and I bought it, and I got Mario Tennis. I had like 3 games for it. I had Mario Tennis. I had like I want to say it was like a Luigi game or something, and then like Waterworld. I had Waterworld as a dated game.
Waterworld.
And Waterworld was the best of all 3 of them, if you ask me. But I remember trying to convince myself that, oh, this is amazing. And really trying to, because I spent this money on it. It's a lot of money for me to raise up. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's great and great. And we went on like a trip to see my grandparents in Iowa. And I took it up there and they'd never seen anything like it. And I'm sitting there at the damn table like this, trying to hunch down. You know, they're like, doesn't that hurt your neck? No, it's fine. It feels great. And go, what about your eyes? Don't you get sick? No, I feel great. It's awesome. You know, and little by little, it started to get to me, and I was like, wow, yeah, that hurts my neck, and it's really uncomfortable to play, and the battery life is absolutely garbage. So you always have to have it connected to an AC adapter, which is a pain in the ass. And then you also have to be in a certain table height and a certain chair height. And it's red graphics. It's red and black graphics that would make you vomit, want to vomit. It would make your stomach feel weird. Let's just say that. And that's what it did to me.
Well, did you know the Virtual Boy was actually 32 bits system?
Yeah, it was 32-bit. Oh, I knew that. I remember it. I remember telling people, they're like, yeah, I got a PlayStation. Well, this is better. This is just like your PlayStation, but it's portable, man. Then why doesn't it have colors? No, well, it uses this mirror, and this is and that's what I tell them. And then, of course, there was rumors that would be coming around from your friends and everybody at school. They're like, they're going to release a color pack for the Virtual Boy, and then it's going to make it into colors like on the Sony. So, of course, I held on to that sucker, but, of course, the color pack never came because it was absolute bullshit. So, yeah, that was this big disappointment for me. And I remember thinking, I was like, I'm never buying this fucking Nintendo shit ever again. But then, of course, the N64, popped out, and everybody was like, oh, this is freaking nuts. And I was like, I was like kind of like standoffish. And I remember going to a store to play it for the first time. Went to a KB Toys to play an N64 the very first time at Woodland Hills Mall, I believe. And I went and played that. And I played it Mario 64. I remember sitting there waiting first off. There's some damn kid to get off there. And then I got on there, and I was like, oh, holy shit, this is nuts. So this is awesome. And I have to have this. And so I asked for it, I believe they got it for me for my birthday. And I had N64, and I remember that birthday, like I had like a bunch of family members in from like out of state. So what was cool is I got like 4 or 5 launch games for my birthday with N64. So I had Mario, I had Cruis'n USA, I had I had Wave Race, I had Shadows of the Empire, I had all these damn games. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And I remember just like playing the hell out of Mario so much that I had the other ones like in the box still for like a month, just sitting there. Because I was just mesmerized with Mario 64. And today it's still probably one of that and like Mario 3 are my 2 favorite Mario games ever, because it was just so different than anything I'd ever played before. But the other games were good. I ended up getting it. Cruis'n USA was kind of crap. I remember I was disappointed with that one because I was like, I want a racing game, because my brother had like this NASCAR game on his PlayStation. Yeah. And I remember asking for it. And I was like, oh, this is like it's just like the arcade game, but with a little bit better graphics. And it was kind of a letdown. But the other ones, Wave Race, it was like a big surprise to me.
I like Wave Race.
That was an awesome game.
Dude, I used to rent the N64 console, the Mario 64, and Wave Race several times before I finally got the N64. And I got that.
Did that. They rented the damn consoles. Yeah, that was like, I remember that. It was a big deal. But
yeah, because at that time frame, I bought my Super Nintendo, so I was not ready to buy a N64.
Yeah. I remember renting an SNES from Blockbuster a couple of times. I remember what my brother did. I didn't do it. I was too young. But I remember him renting it, and it came in this big damn case.
Yeah.
And and you had to be. They were really picky about making sure everything was perfect and everything, and returning it. I remember that, and I was like, that was awesome to have that rented and be like, oh my god, we have a Super Nintendo in our living room right now. But yeah, I remember that. But he would always rent the damn crap. I was like, oh, get Mario, and he's like, no, I'm getting Pilot Wings. I'm gonna play Pilot Wings. He loved that. I thought he was gonna be a pilot or some shit after that. Never happened. But um, but the that freaking Super NES and the N64. The N64 took things to another level. It was like that was one thing I remember reading about the Nintendo Power 2, and I was like, oh, this is like another bullshit like then the Virtual Boy, but it wasn't. It was actually the truth, and it was amazing. And then of course there was also uh, Zelda, which was honestly one of the probably arguably the greatest video game ever made, right? Why? Because it was the first game that ever had an open world where you can just go do wherever the hell you want to do, whenever you want to do it, right? It was the only, because nowadays all the online games are all like that, right? All of them.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, before that, that was it. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, there was games like the ones before it that were like that, but in 3D, where you could just go and do whatever you want, and like ride a horse across this giant ass like
Field.
universe, right? Is insane to me. I missed a lot of school. I want to say at least 3 days being sick playing Zelda.
I could never get into Ocarina of Time. I mean, I never played it until later in life, but I tried to play it, and I was like, I get stuck.
It was hard. It was really hard. And you know what got me helped me was Nintendo Power. I'm sure you remember this, but there was like hotlines you could call. It was
Oh,
a
yeah.
900 number. I ended up calling one of those once. I called one of those for the water temple on Zelda Ocarina of Time. I couldn't figure this shit out. I couldn't. It was so pissing me off. I remember almost breaking my damn controller against the TV screen and getting in trouble for that. And I remember calling it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna call it. So I called it on my brother's phone. And and I called him and they told me how to pass it. And I got past it. I eventually beat the game. But that particular level, this water temple, was that was the problem for me. It's huge. It took me a while to get past that. Zelda was great. I mean, there were so many awesome games for that system when it was around. I mean, it was like there was also what was the name of that game? There was also, of course, like awesome shooters. Like Turok was like the first shooter for that system. I remember that too. Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Nobody ever heard of it. I remember renting the damn thing from Blockbuster, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." The reason it was cool wasn't because, like, I mean, the graphics were amazing, but the cool thing was all the weapons. The weapons did really cool shit that you'd never seen in any game before. And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I want that game." We had a friend in high school, Bear, who had that game, and I remember he played it at my house when I rented it the first time. And he was like, "Oh, this is amazing," and us, and he was just immersed by it. And I remember he ended up missing almost a week of ninth grade playing Turok. No shit. He was sick. He said he had to get a doctor. His bullshit. He was playing Turok because every day after I got off school, I would go over to his house and he's sitting there playing it. He's playing Turok every day.
How could you get away with that? I mean, I guess his parents didn't give a crap.
His parents were the kind of people that would, or his mom would be like, "You want that? I'll tell them you're sick." And he got everything he wanted. I mean, he's spoiled little shit. He had every damn system, and then that was out at the time in there, and he was sitting there playing Turok Dinosaur Hunter, through the night. But I remember that specifically because he was like, I would text him and he'd be like, "Playing Turok, I got through this level," and I was like, Jesus, You still playing? He's like, I didn't. I slept 2 hours last night. And it's like, okay. But yeah, Turok was a good one. And then there was also all the famous licensed titles that came over, like Duke Nukem and Doom. All those came in. And then, of course, there was GoldenEye, which was
Oh
like
god, I'm
nuts.
I'm sick of hearing about GoldenEye. Actually, I mean it's a good game, but I prefer the later ones with that was on GameCube and so on and so forth. But I'm like, yeah, GoldenEye was good. I just like people praise it as like the Bond game.
What I liked about it was I didn't like the single player. The single player was easy to beat. It was quick, and it was kind of stupid. Honestly, it was like kind of like, oh, this is like somebody built this in the last minute. The multiplayer is where it was at. Like I would go over to Zach's house, and me, him, and his dad, and Cody or his sister would play. We would sit there and play it for hours, and we'd be like, "Oh, it's lunchtime," and we'd go down for lunch, eat lunch, go back up. All right, more multiplayer GoldenEye for like hours. Like my weekends were like gone instantly. Right? It was like gone. That's what I really liked about it. And then, of course, that one, just like NBA Jam on the 64, had all these damn cheats and things where you could make big heads and you could do paintball and you could do special guns and gun color. It was the
Yeah.
first game that really added that type of experience where you could have different types of guns and different schemes to your paints for the guns and things like that. That was the first on that, which was pretty neat. Now, other than that game being a big multiplayer game, I think the really biggest multiplayer game that came out of N64, in my opinion, is Mario Kart 64.
Yeah, I agree.
It was
I
just
think I know for sure that I came over to your place to play wrestling games, but I think we probably came over and played some Mario Kart as well.
yeah, I'm pretty sure because I mean I liked wrestling games too on the SNES. There was a lot of great. I mean, it was I considered wrestling like the sports games. I had a bunch of them on SNES, and it
Mm.
was fun. They were great multiplayer games. Royal Rumble, I think '94 was an amazing game. I played the hell out of that game, and it had an amazing lineup. And but Mario Kart, even on the NES or the Super Nintendo, was also pretty good. It was pretty good. But that 64 just the graphics just took it to another level, and the multiplayer was amazing. And I played it a lot with like I remember everybody that I knew back then. We played all the time. Bear sucked at it. I remember he really sucked at that game. He'd always choose Toad, and shocking. Uh, but I love that game. I think that was like the iconic game as far as a multiplayer game. I think a lot of people will say GoldenEye, but I
Mm.
would say Mario Kart. I would say Mario Kart, or even there's a lot better other ones out there, but N64 was there's so many badass games for that,
Mm.
and like I was thinking about it, I was like, I was never much into fighting games, right? Other than Double Dragon, which is not the fighting game we think of. When you think
Yeah.
fighting, that genre is different. But there were games on the N64 that were so badass in fighting. I became a fan of it because of that system, right?
Well, I'm gonna have to wrap it up because my editor only could handle an hour.
Only an hour? What the hell?
I
What?
know.
What we got? I'm gonna have to maybe show you something that will be free and longer. So
Well, I like it, but yeah, I'm definitely like I just found another one, but let's split this up. We can if you want to
we'll
do
do a
another round.
series. That's all right. We'll do another. Yeah, because then listen, I was a Nintendo guy. I've always been a Nintendo guy, right? There was pauses though in my life where I stopped Nintendo. Like I'm in one of those right now. There were points where I was disappointed. Virtual Boy, GameCube, and also a little bit of the Wii, just a little bit. But I've always been a Nintendo guy. I've owned an Xbox once, and you own it now. And
actually, I did. I told this story. I had 3 broken Xboxes, and that was one of them. And Frankenstein one working one. And I eventually gave that to my boss when I was leaving because I got the green Halo edition now.
Oh, great! The see-through green one.
Yeah,
but it's actually a badass one. It's a nice one.
Yeah, but I eventually just gave it to him for free because I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this? It's not working 100%, so I just gave it to him. But
yeah, Casey on my Xbox. We'll get into that story next time.
Do you want to plug your channel?
Sure. I mean, I've been away from recording videos the last couple weeks. I had to do some blood tests, and blood tests, unfortunately, means you can't consume any type of alcohol, which is what I do on my channel. So, which I've been drinking like all day today because it's the first time I've been able to in 2 weeks. But so yeah, if you want to come by my channel, we talk a lot about beer and beer memorabilia and everything to do with it. So
I like that gadget one where it makes the foam, like it shoots out the foam.
I got a new one coming. In this one, you'll actually put a glass onto a coaster. It looks like a coaster. You put the glass of beer already in it, and it creates the foam, like Doctor Strange style.
No shit.
Yes, supposedly. We're going to see if it works, but tune in for that.
I'm going to use your your logo as the thumbnail so people know where to go to.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to probably push this out today, so I'll probably get your YouTube site onto, I'm going to try to put it in the description.
Absolutely. So, yeah, sounds good. I need to talk to you, by the way, as we go off the air. Really quick.
We'll go ahead and wrap it up right now. So.